I love me a good town hall, and boy, did that happen in Nebraska with Congressman Mike Flood. And his constituents were not happy with him. They were lighting him up with questions. Roll the video.
Congressman Flood, I come from 11 generations of military citizens who have served this nation. I've seen the long-term effects of service on veterans' health and on well-being. This budget reconciliation bill that you support threatens to cut all of their benefits and support programs that go along with that. How can you stand behind this bill that erodes the very services that people like me, my family, our families, and younger vets coming home today rely on to live decent, healthy lives?
Well, first of all, thank you for your service to the country, and thank you to the generations of service to the country.
Please,
at my first town hall, I had the opportunity to. At the first town hall, the main issue that I took away from that was concerns about veterans' benefits, not only in the proposed bill, but just with the new secretary coming in. I met personally with the Veterans Secretary. We went over everything, and I will tell you, our Veterans Affairs are going to be better than they've been in a long time under this president. The Secretary, we sat down for the better part of an hour, and I would have to get my notes from that meeting, but I asked a lot of questions that came from that Columbus town hall. And when the time is right, and I have that in front of me, I will go through that. But I truly believe that number one, our veterans served our country. They were made a promise that we will provide their health care. I have a record of supporting, as a member of the legislature, our state veterans homes, and I have a record in our Congress of supporting veterans, and I will be happy to get more information from the Secretary. If you have specific programs you're concerned about, please reach out to Taylor and get us that information. Thank you.
My question is fiscal. With $450 million FEMA dollars being reallocated to open Alligator Alcatraz and $600 million taxpayer FEMA dollars being used to now open more concentration camps and ICE burning through $8.4 million a day to illegally detain people, how much does it cost for fascism? How much do the taxpayers have to pay for a fascist country?
Americans went to the polls in November, and they had a choice between a Democratic candidate that had an open border, no enforcement, fentanyl, drugs, human trafficking. And they had a choice between that and a candidate that said, close the border, get illegal immigrants out of our country, stop the fentanyl, stop the human trafficking, stop the drugs, stop the crime, stop the violence. That's what Americans voted for. Americans voted for a border that is secure. And I support the president enforcing our immigration laws, which, by the way, were written by Congress.
Okay. So how can you justify taking health care away from 78,000 Nebraskans?
As I explained before, when you have an additional $700 million coming into the state of Nebraska for Nebraska hospitals, we have a state where our infrastructure is going to be supported, is going to be funded, and is going to be available for the people that need it. If you are able to work and you're 28 years old and you choose not to work, you don't get free health care in America. If you are in this country illegally, you do not get free health care in America.
Saying that silence is complicity. Your silence tells us that you have no problem with the January 6th attack on the Capitol, the pardoning of all those involved, the big lie about the 2020 election with absolutely no evidence. These are all markers These are markers of fascism. I have read a dozen or so books on authoritarianism and fascism. You said in Seward that you were not a fascist. Your complicity says otherwise. Have you ever spoken out against this administration and its Project 2025, which is a fascist machine? Have you ever spoken out? There are a number of people, it's been reported many times in the news that there are a number of our colleagues, Republican colleagues, who do not like this man and they speak against him behind closed doors in private. Maybe you're one of them. There is a thing, profiles encourage. Why don't any of you, because you know better, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
Sir, I want to be very clear with you. Give me a chance to answer his question, I'd be happy to. Fascists don't hold town halls with open question and answer series. And I will tell you this, I support law enforcement, and what happened on January 6, 2021 was not right, and I'm on the record saying so. I'm sure you can Google it, but I support law enforcement. I have prided myself on supporting law enforcement since I began as a member of the Judiciary Committee in 2005, and we started working on child sexual assault. We started working on the sex offender registry. We started working on all of these different DWI laws to make our streets safer. I believe in law enforcement. I believe in the rule of law. I believe in the rule of law. It matters to me. We have a lot of people that need to know when I see something that I don't agree with, I don't run to the TV station as my first stop. I try to stop it before it gets worse. I try to stand up and go to work to represent the people that I have in this district. And sir, I believe in law enforcement. Thank you.
I believe in fair taxation, but I disagree with personally benefiting at the expense of lower-income Nebraska citizens. Trump is a pathological liar, and citizens can't believe a word that comes from the convicted felon's mouth. Keeping Nebraska in mind, what actions are you going to support or initiate that will provide health care and food assistance for low-income families, protect Medicare, not increase the national debt, unmask the ICE terrorists, close alligator Auschwitz, and impeach Trump if he pardons Ghislaine Maxwell?
We protected Medicaid and saved taxpayers millions of dollars from waste, fraud, and abuse. This program, over the long term, will spend way too much money that we cannot afford if we don't protect it for those that need it. There are vulnerable people that need Medicaid. There are pregnant women that need Medicaid. There are folks that need to be in a nursing home that need Medicaid. We need to figure out how to keep more people in their home receiving care because we can't afford everybody going to the nursing home. So, sir, we, in my opinion, as your representative, with the $700 million coming into the state, the $50 billion rural hospital fund that we worked on, and the common sense protections of requiring people to work if they want free health care, and no illegal immigrants getting health care for free, I think that's entirely reasonable.
Yes. How are farmers supposed to survive as a result of this budget bill?
Well, I'll tell you what. I actually have this number right here. We actually, and it was in one of my slides, 1 year ago, almost to this day, we were at the State Chamber fly-in, and I was the first in our congressional delegation to sound the alarm about the farm economy. I've been talking to community bankers across this state that are worried that a lot of our producers with corn at $3.80 a bushel and soybeans down from what they should be and higher inputs, are going to have trouble making their payments. And I started to talking to local bankers about what this year's operational notes renewal would be. We made it. We made it through that. Actually, that's not true. I'll talk to you about that in a second. In December, we provided $10 billion in economic aid to America's farmers, mostly for the American Southeast, Georgia, Mississippi, those states. I tell you what, though, I am worried about next year for our farmers and ranchers. I am worried about it. And let me tell you a couple of things that we did do. We put a $59 billion increase for the Ag Safety Net programs, which is a $9 billion increase over the prior fiscal year. And you're not going to like this next part, some of you, but President Biden did no trade deals in 4 years. He did not stand up for Nebraska farmers when it came to white corn and the ban from the Mexican president's wife. Farmers and ranchers in this state are going to get a far better deal from Donald Trump's trade negotiations than we ever got under President Biden. And this is the only way to improve our chances to grow our farm income.
What specific action are you taking to defund or continued support to Israel and their aggressions on the West Bank and genocide against Palestinians living in Gaza?
I have said from the start, what happened on October 8th was an abomination. Well, October 7th, sorry. I support Israel. America has no better ally than Israel. And they have every right to root out Hamas and these evil terrorists, whether they're in Gaza, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's the Houthis, whether it's the Iranians. They live under threat of nuclear and vicious attack every single day. I also believe that our country, working with Israel, needs to do everything we can to get those children food. No American wants any child, no matter the place they live, to ever suffer. But you got to remember, we're dealing with Hamas. They use these Palestinians as human shields in their pursuit of terror and destruction against Israelis. So I support Israel. I support Israel. I support Israel.
Next question.
Yes, first of all, I'd ask you please not to refer it to that monstrosity as the big, beautiful bill.
It's the name of the bill, though.
We know better. We know better. My question concerns veterans. Again, I asked you in March about cuts for veterans, cuts that will hurt veterans. I didn't really find your answer to the gentleman earlier adequate. How are cuts to the VA going to improve VA services? Also, what about the thousands of veterans who have lost their federal positions? And what about how that big, ugly bill, let me finish. How about how that big, ugly bill is going to disproportionately affect veterans who need SNAP and other benefits? Finally, what about the veterans who are seeing family members who have done nothing wrong being picked up by masked ICE agents?
Okay, so first of all,
my question
to
is
your
this.
first point there,
When are
the
you
bill
gonna
is actually
stand
called
up?
the One Big Beautiful Bill, and I'm not going to tiptoe around what the answers are because that's the bill that passed. And when President Biden passed the Inflation Reduction Act, that's what we called it, even though it did the opposite. As it relates to the VA cuts, what specific cut are you talking about so I can understand? Give me a specific example.
It is specifically general cuts in the VA's overall budget. I want to know, when are you going to stand up to the bully in chief and his disrespectful, un-American, cruel cuts that hurt our veterans?
See, this issue came up in Columbus in May, and I went to the Veterans Secretary. And the system, when we're done, will be better for veterans, it will be more efficient, and we'll have better services. I am confident of that. You cannot cite a specific program because I went to him specifically and said, show me where these cuts are. We went through it. I've got the data. I've got the notes. I've got all the information I need. And I will be very public about showing you what is happening with veterans as soon as I get the opportunity to avail myself of my notes. But I am very confident. President Trump, this Congress, the Veterans Administration, we are working hard for veterans, and we will deliver for veterans. We are protecting veterans, we are protecting Medicaid, we are getting results, and we are pursuing growth. That is what's happening right now. Protection, results, and growth. Thank you.
Well, that boy was lying, and you said he would lighten his ass up. Here is Congressman Don Bacon on CNN laying out how the economy in Nebraska is screwed because of Donald Trump.
And I would just say, from my vantage point here in Nebraska, we're seeing a bit of a troubled economic mess, or right now it's a troubled time. And I'll say in Nebraska, the GDP here has decreased by 6% over the last year. And it's all about trade. It's all about getting corn and soybeans out the door. So what I hear with, a weak jobs numbers, well, we're sort of seeing that in Nebraska right now.
So isn't that quite interesting, Tyler? Here you have Don Bacon, Congressman Don Bacon, representing Omaha, admitting they're screwed. The governor previously called Donald Trump because guess what? Those ICE arrests were taking all of those migrant workers out of Nebraska. Those farmers getting screwed. Oh, by the way, Nebraska voted for Trump. Just like Las Vegas is a ghost town, they are down huge numbers because a lot of those international tourists ain't coming. Nevada, you also FAFO because y'all voted for Trump as well. They're getting what they deserve because they're getting what they voted for.
Absolutely. I just said F around and you find out. I think the backlash in Nebraska reminds us that even in deep red communities that they're not monolithic and they're waking up to the extremists and the hypocrisy that they're seeing from far right politics. I don't think this just wasn't about disagreeing with policy on many issues that I totally agree with them. I'm glad they brought up what's happening in Gaza and how children are starving. But it's about standing up for our communities and standing up and saying enough is enough to the politics that don't agree with our basic needs. I think when we see moments like this where voters disrupt the status quo, it signals a hope that the tide is shifting and is shifting towards accountability and real representation, because we don't see that happening in Washington today. And we're seeing that people aren't afraid to challenge power face to face. And that's and I think that's a powerful sign of democratic engagement. And I hope that it lies in this, continues in this cycle of resistance. And I think it's a good sign. It's a good sign that conservatives are reaching their breaking point. But my hope is that when the ballot box comes about in midterm elections, that we can see a tie where we can see our true values be reflected in Congress.
Andrew.
Roland, you have been working hard, and it seems like the tide is changing. When I see people with U.S. Army hats on yelling at their Republican leaders that they elected into office about the policies that are now starting to affect them in their neighborhood. Because when they elected these people, they didn't think that it was going to affect them. They thought it was just going to affect people that look like us. Now it's starting to hit home. Now these farmers are starting to see the issues out in Nebraska now. Now they're affected. Now, when I see this, that tells me that 2026, I'm hoping, and I love that you're shedding light on this, because I think 2026, that we're going to see a change. There's way too much happening, and it's not just about minorities that are being affected. It is all Americans now. And I think that we all need to be banding together to affect change and bring in some new leadership. I mean, the one lady had a shirt on that said, "Go fact to yourself." That's how upset she is, that she went online to buy that shirt, knowing that she's going on this town hall to talk to Representative Flood. So the tide is changing, and I'm very happy to see this. And that's a kudos to the hard work that people just like you, Roland, are doing. So thank you so much, day in and day out, for fighting the system. And we have a long road ahead of us, but a clip like that shows that even in a place like Nebraska, which we felt like we had no shot in, that in 2026, I feel like the tide is going to be changing. People are fed up.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.